final stages, but just the composure, and also been on the big stage the first time in a cup quarter-final. They're trying to take some silverware home, and they've been led well by Alexandra Yanushkin.
Of course, they're an invitational side invited from time to time to appear on the 7th circuit, but I fancy after this weekend that we'll see much more of the Russian 7th squad, not saying as core members of the 7th circuit, but they've certainly created an impression. And as you say, that little man there wearing the 8 shirt, Alexander Yanushkin in particular.
Well, they have no fear, and they're not overawed by the bigger teams. They don't really care. It's a wonderful trait to have when you go in as the underdog. And the other thing about it, now that it's become an Olympic sport from 2016, expect to see a lot more Russians playing this wonderful game.
Federico Anselmi from Argentina is the referee for this clash to determine who will go through to the plate final to meet South Africa. We've just seen defeat Portugal. A young Australian side, and it'll be the underdogs, Russia for sure, that will get the crowd support for this one. Australia never the popular squad in Hong Kong. So Russia have possession, and there's been a change of a sea change of tactics in the Russian setup since we've seen them in Dubai, I suppose, at the beginning of the tournament. They have in the past, Willie, they played their 7s rugby as they have done their 15s by utilising the big men and charging downfield, but there's far more finesse here in Hong Kong than I've seen for a long time from the Russian squad.
And I think that's through their coach, Pavel Paranovsky, as well. They seem to be playing. There he is, the man in charge. There you go. He's passionate. He loves the sport, but they're using their skills, the ball being used from one side to the other, and they've certainly got enough strength and power.
Passionate, well, you said it, Willie. I mean, we've lost Thierry Janacek from the touchlines, but we've got another guy who's equally animated in Pavel Baranovsky. And even more so if Russia can get their first try. Here he goes, Vladimir Ostroushko, using his strength, and powers over in the corner for the first try. Very powerful runner is Vladimir Ostroushko.
Well, he's one of the experienced players on the circuit for Russia. Played against Georgia in the 15-a-side test last weekend, his 11th event. And look at this, no stopping him. Get out of my way, Lewis Holland. Zach Holmes comes across, but he gets the same answer. And Russia first to score. Top try scorer for the Russians, I'd imagine, as well.
Yeah, he scored 4 tries at the last pool stage against Malaysia. So that's his 6th try, I believe, in this weekend. So that's a scoreline that will resonate around the rugby world. No wonder. So Russia restart. Australia spill the ball, but they'll come back. The ball came off a Russian hand. Michael O'Connor, we've seen that look before once today. Russians won the bowl here in 2007 and 2008. They got a solitary point, but they're certainly safe of their first points of the season on the IRB circuit. Russia, again, of course, building up to the Rugby World Cup finals, the full 15 finals in New Zealand in September. The Russians are represented, and they will be represented by a number of these young men, I fancy. Zheludev, well, actually, he could play for Russia. He's of Russian parentage, and I think the Russian authorities have had a look at his ancestry. Jean Rolance takes it into contact. No way through for Sean Foley on the blind side. And the Russians keeping the defensive shape and dash across field. Good tackle there by Dmitry Perov, who has 5 for Russia. Zheludev digs it out. Angus offloads to Sean Foley. This is Ed Jenkins, big guy who scored a try against Samoa earlier on. Oh, caught by the shirt tails, and a chance, yes, and a chance taken as well by Sean Foley, and Australia have struck back. Patient build-up.
Well, he's been part of the Commonwealth Games team that won the silver medal in 2010, plagued by injuries last season, next Australian secondary schoolboy representative, and spent 3 years in the opposite code with the Sydney Roosters with just good support play. That's where all the hard work had been done, though. All of the strength shown by Jono Lance. Good lines run as well by Sean Foley. Great reward.
So with the conversion, Australia edge ahead by 7 points to 5. Just over 2 minutes remaining of the first half. Will that ball travel the 10 metres? Just about. Pinpoint accuracy then from the restart. Jono Lance was the recipient. Bernard Foley the captain at 6. At 8 is Greg Gillodeff, one of 5 representatives from the University of Sydney. Advantage Australia here. That is the captain, Bernard Foley. Hamish Angus spreads it wide to Ed Jenkins, taking on the Russian defenders. And they look to hold him up. Good strength from Ed Jenkins, but in the end, just spilling the ball forward.
Yeah, just want to give a plug for Jono Lance on that as well. When pass is completed, you can see 20 to 6, 3 to 1. But from the kickoff, just the way he committed himself, and the 50-50 balls at set piece, and in particular kickoffs, usually the team that scores and gets the kickoff scores again. So great to see him committing, because he's not a big lad.
Defensive scrum here for Russia. Australia looking to push them off the ball. Enterprise or risky rugby. Well, it's come off that time. So the clock ticks down to a minute. Try a piece, just the conversion separating the teams. 7 points to 5. Pavel Baranovsky. Will need a throat lozenge, I think, if Russia get to the final. They're toing and froing in this lineup. Russia competing for the ball. Foley to Zach Holmes. Oh, clean down the middle. He's away, and he won't be caught. That's a second try for Australia. Brilliant individual effort from Zach Holmes, the junior national 400-metre champion back in 2003. He's not bad on the short sprints either.
Yeah, he looked like a sprinter, more like a 25-yard sprinter than 400. Just a brilliant line, and he actually chose to run between the 2 Russian defenders who looked at each other as if to sort of say, yours. Both missed. Conversion is good. Australia 2 converted tries.
14-5 to the good then as we arrive at the break, and Alexander Yanushkin will have to rally his troops during the break with the aid of his coach Pavel Baranovsky, because they trail by 2 scores at half-time and by 14-5. They come up against Samoa in the quarter-final. Well, they had to use a bit of beef as well, and couldn't quite make it in the end. It was England's experience that got them the victory over Russia in that quarter-final. Oh, snapped up by Jono Lance. Lance is away, and Lance is the appropriate word and surname of the try scorer here, over in the corner. 15 seconds into the second half, and Australia have extended their lead to 14 points with a conversion to come.
Well, Russia would feel cheated. Here they go, up and competing, bouncing it back. And Jono Lance just standing there, holding his ground, just in case that was the tactic. Then he pinned his ears back. Good chase coming up, and made his debut in Dubai in 2009-2010. Kiwi father, who represented Waikato, and he'd be thrilled if he's watching back home.
So from the touchline, a difficult kick for a right-footed kicker, Hamish Angus. And made it look so easy, didn't he? And suddenly there's a fair amount of daylight and a smile on the face of Michael O'Connor at last, just as the drizzle comes down on the Sokompo Stadium, and dampening the spirits perhaps of the Russian coach as well. 21 points to 5 now then. Still plenty of time if the Russians can get a score. Australia chasing the restart. Goroshilov, a strong man from the Yug Krasnodar, the Yug club in the Krasnodar region, a southern city in Russia, and Yug, incidentally, are the current Russian Sevens champions. Igor Galinovsky, full international wing or centre three-quarter. Russians penalised for, is it illegal use of the hand on the floor? So the Australians in no hurry now, really. They have a commanding lead. Come away through Jacob Taylor. Bernard Foley takes on the Russian defender Gustyusev. Angus, a man who had to choose between rugby and cricket, made the right decision, I think. Zach Holmes. Good clearance on the ground, creates an opportunity here again. Jacob Taylor. He had two men outside, and the Russians caught at sixes and sevens, really. And Taylor makes it safe for Australia with a fourth try.
Michael O'Connor would be thrilled with the way his young troops are tracking. First try for Taylor here in Hong Kong. Missed most of 2010 through shoulder reconstruction. His 11th tournament. Look at this. Through the gap, keeping the ball away from the defender coming across, and in the tackle of Gustyusev, scoring Australia's fourth.
The conversion is good, and Australia open the gap to 23 points midway through the second half. 28 plays 5.
And they're not far away. When we've spoken about Australia and the fact that Michael O'Connor has worked with these players over the last 12, 15 months. Success last year towards the end of the tournaments.
It's a clumsy challenge, so it's advantage Russia. Yanushkin. So the referee brings them back, and he'll want a word here at least. And is he going into his pocket? Yes, he is. It's a dangerous challenge. And Australia have a man in the bin for the next 2 minutes. But I fear it's too much of an uphill climb for Russia. 23 points the deficit. But they'll plug away. Perov to Goroshilov. Certainly impressed in his 10th tournament on the circuit. Yanushkin, he's been around a little longer. Fresh legs, fresh blood. Igor Galinovsky, Yanushkin chooses his angle well. Now then, where's the supporting runner? It is Andreev, the replacement, who was there, but snapped up. And a counter from Australia on the near side here. Good pace being shown by Greg Jaludev against his countryman. Greg Jaludev in under the posts. 21 years of age this week, and that's the way to celebrate. That try takes Australia out beyond the 30-point mark, 33-5.
Even with 6 players, the turnover, that was the crucial stage. And Tavita Kudriani, the Fijian-born Australian, he picked the ball up. It was there, no Russian players within Kui. He picked it up, and they shifted it along the line. Good pace shown by Jaludev. Comfortable margin for Australia at this stage.
35-5, minute and a half. And you can see from the Russian players that have just come off, it's been a long weekend for them, and they've applied themselves well, certainly to the tactics and to the techniques as well. Perhaps a little more fitness might be called for, because as you say, Willie, they're up against probably the fittest squad in this tournament, the youngest possibly as well, an average age of what, just about 21. Michael O'Connor, well, he lost a number of players last year to Super 15s, and that's all credit to him that they were snapped up for Super 15 duty. This is the latest crop of recruits yet to get to a cup final. It took them until London last year to get and to win the first cup final in 8 years. So Australia rebuilding, and Russia getting it together as well. It augurs well for the future of Sevens rugby as more of the less favoured nations, if you like, are stepping up. And Russia, again, one of those nations which receive support from their Olympic Committee for Sevens rugby in advance of 2016. Away goes Vladimir Ostroushko. Ostroushko scored Russia's only try to date. 1-on-1, and it's the Russian one who'll get there. Wow. And the post, the uprights, are really shaking after that clash, that collision. Hamish Angus couldn't quite catch Vladimir Ostroushko, and Russia will have the last word.
His 6th try here in Hong Kong. Geez, he's quick for a big man. Once he got the ball, I just couldn't believe how he accelerated. And then the chase came from Hamish Angus, pushes him away the first time, and then holds onto his jersey on this occasion here and takes him into the post.
Yeah, that caused quite a stir, that collision with the uprights. But Vladimir Ostroushko is none the worse for that. And a good effort by the Russians, possibly one game too far for them. But Australia will meet South Africa as they have